Thank you so much for watching our videos again. So we were asked by our subscribers about making a video regarding teaching writing. And in this occasion, we did it. So we're gonna show you, this video is about that. And we have created a blog for you to interact with us. So as I said before, our topic today is teaching writing, especially in the adult context. So before I start the video, I would like to know if you consider important to teach writing in order to develop English learning, and why.
Okay, as you may have thought, writing is a very difficult skill to learn and also to taught to our students. However, it is fundamental for their language development and also for communicate purposefully in a second language. But first we have to start with this question. What is writing? Well, writing is a productive skill that is highly necessary for developing the language. It employs certain strategies and also involves a lot of processes. That is why we need to make a distinction between writing as a product and writing as a process. We are going to focus in the latter.
So now that we have already introduced you teaching writing in adult context, we invited you to surface in our blog. So we have different sections for you to learn more about how to teach writing. So we have processes involved, how to teach adults, useful activities, assessing the skill, common problems, and this is definitely my favorite section of the blog, the classroom videos. Then we have a discussion and a summary, and the most important part, that you're gonna be able to interact with us through a quiz.
Okay, so the first part of our blog is about processes involved in writing. It is important to view writing as a process since it involves a number of tasks. And also, in order to reduce anxiety and frustration, we need to approach writing a step at a time. So the first process is called planning or pre-writing, as you can see here in our video, in our blog. So the first step is about activating students' ideas. They need to create an opinion about the topic, and they also need to gather information about the topic they are going to write. This can be done through meaningful activities such as brainstorming or discussions. And in this stage, it's important that students don't get stuck with the specific aspects of the writing composition. The second stage is drafting. Here students write the first draft, and they need to focus on fluency of writing rather than inaccuracy. It may be useful for them to have a central idea in mind and also to define an audience. The third phase is responding. This has a fundamental role in the whole process of writing, since it is the first teacher's reaction to the student's composition. And from the teacher's feedback, students are going to be able to move forward in this process.
In revising, students involve their analytical thinking in order to enhance their pieces of writing. Hereby, as I said here, it might be useful to provide some questions to our writers, in this case students, if their pieces of writing comprises what was asked by the teacher. Also, teachers can assign peer work during this process for them to check each other's compositions by reading or listening to it.
Then during editing, students organize their text and prepare to write their final draft. Editing can be done by the student, or they can check their own compositions or also check their classmate composition. But in order to guide this, the teacher can set questions in order to orientate the students to check their peers or their own work.
Yeah.
Then we have evaluating, which can be done by the teacher or the students, and we have two ways of approach it. First, we have analytical, that it has to do with focus on specific aspects of the written composition, such as spelling, grammar, or sentence structure. And then we have holistic, that it focuses on the effectiveness of the text as a whole. This depends on the purpose of the assessment and also on the teacher.
And last, we have the most enjoyable process, that is called post-writing. In post-writing, students have the chance to recognize their pieces of work as something significant and worthwhile for them. This process includes publishing, reading aloud in front of the class, sharing, and even transforming the text. So one of the other topics that we are going to tackle in our blog is how to teach this skill to adults. Throughout the years, teaching writing has been seen as the skill in which learners only produce written compositions rather than developing thinking skills. Even though writing is categorized into the productive skills, it's not the proper manner by which this ability should be taught within the classroom. Moreover, it has to be considered that teachers sometimes see writing as an extension of grammar. It is not the right view towards this skill. So for beginning the work of writing with elementary students, Highland suggests to take into account what he called 4-stage processes. First, we start with the familiarization. Before writing any composition, students have to receive the certain amount of grammar and vocabulary that they are requested to include in their written compositions. Then we have controlled writing, in which learners exploit and they sometimes play with fixed patterns. Third, we have guided writing. Here, students can work on replicating or imitating text to suit their needs with the language. And last, we have free writing. Learners here manipulate patterns which were developed before, so as to write about an essay or a letter of recommendation, etc. So in conclusion, it has to be considered that writing is well learned by practicing rather than teaching it. Also, it's highly suggested for teachers to include moments of writing that they shouldn't last 10 minutes, they should last more than that. Ideally, with adults, it is necessary to find tasks which have a deeper meaning for them. For example, writing a resume, rather than just making them to write for the sake of writing.
Okay, now that you have learned how to teach this skill to adults, you can integrate that knowledge to these meaningful and fun activities. It's important to mention that these activities can be adapted in order to suit your students' needs. The first one is instant writing. This is perfect for building the writing habit, and it has 3 variations. The first one is to provide half sentences to your students and ask them to complete these sentences. Then you can ask them to write a sentence about a topic you are tackling in the class. And the third variation is to provide 2 or 3 words for them to include in a sentence or a short composition. The second activity is using music and pictures. This can provide a very relaxed and calm atmosphere when working with adults. And this can be done by playing a song, so students have to write a story that matches this song. And with pictures, it can be similar. You can show a sequence of pictures and they can write an ending for this sequence, or also write a story based on these pictures.
Then we have letter to yourself. This is one of the activities that I applied in my practicum process. Letter to yourself, here students write a letter to their future self, including things they expect to accomplish in the future. Here you can make your students to, of course, write, but using future tenses. Then we have writing reviews. The students can write reviews about anything that they watch or they read about. They can write reviews about books, about movies. And here you're developing their critical thinking regarding books or movies. One of the other important aspects of teaching writing is how to assess this skill. Well, this part is both important for students and teachers, but it's more important for teachers. According to Bernie, it is highly suggested that before teachers assess their learners, they have to show them the way by which they're going to be evaluating. Also, it is very vital to take into account the thinking procedure, since we have to bear in mind that second language learners tend to translate what they think into writing. So first, they think in their mother tongue, and then translate it into their written compositions in the second language. Lastly, it is important for teachers, before assessing the piece of writing, to make the following question. To what extent has the writer effectively communicated that thinking? Even though I mentioned before that this part is more important for teachers, students also can play a very important role on assessing the skill. As we commented before, the processes involved, we are going to see that the editing process is also a way to assess the skill, this time more closely related to peer correction. So we have two main stages for the editing process to be carried out as a way of assessing the skill. So first we have focusing on form. Here students are gonna be asked to focus their attention on grammar mistakes, spelling mistakes, word order, etc. Here, ideally, they should use highlighters to identify and differentiate the mistakes. Then we have recognizing major errors. Research indicates that focusing on patterns of error rather than on individual errors is most effective for both teachers and students. Here, learners are going to learn how to categorize those mistakes. And here you can see in this extract in which learners are asked to assess their other classmates' pieces of writing. So here they're going to categorize the major errors or mistakes into nouns, verbs, punctuation, sentence, structure, etc.
Okay, so when writing, students can face several issues such as frustration or anxiety. So in order to tackle this, we need to build students' confidence little by little. Here we have 6 major problems, and also we are going to tell you how to tackle them. The first one is genre. Sometimes we as teachers struggle with choosing a genre for our students. But here we need to keep in mind their level, their age, and also their preference. And once we have chosen a genre, we can deliver clear models for them to follow. This is especially useful for beginners. We need to maintain a variety in topics and in genre, of course, for them to get used to write for different situations. The second one is getting students involved. That sometimes is very difficult with writing since it is considered as a tedious activity. So we need to engage them with appealing writing topics and also activities such as discussions, boost groups, and etc. It is important that for them to create an opinion about the topic they are going to write. The third one is lack of language. That is very common also. Students can get frustrated because they may feel that they don't have enough words or grammatical knowledge for expressing their ideas. So for tackling this, we need to provide key vocabulary, sentences, or for example questions for orientate their writing and also support their ideas. The fourth one is building the writing habit. So some students may not want to write because they find it too difficult for them. In order to tackle this, we need to display fun and meaningful activities for them to get familiarized with writing. And also it is important to build activities in which they have the opportunity to succeed in order to avoid frustration. Then we have writing as a process. It is necessary to involve students in the progress of writing and raise their awareness towards the advantages of each phase. And it also that is not a linear process, since we can go back and even repeat a phase if we don't feel satisfied with a written composition. And the final one has to do with the spelling. This is especially difficult for some students since word-sound correspondence is difficult in English and is different from Spanish. So for this, we need to provide practice in spelling exercises, and also a fundamental practice is to read a lot, both intensively and extensively.
Our blog contains a part where you can watch classroom videos regarding teaching writing, and we strongly invited you to watch this, and well, then you're gonna answer some questions about the video.
Yes, we also have some more useful videos, as this one that is about common confusions between writing and grammar, and also this one about 6 mistakes to avoid when teaching writing. And this, the final one, is a deeper insight in teaching writing as a process.
Our blog has a discussion section for you to interact with us. In this part, you're gonna find problematics that teachers face when teaching the skills. Please feel free to leave your comment in the section below for you to dialogue about this with your co-workers or even with your students.
Yes, here we have 7 common problematics that I'm very sure that you have faced in your school. They go from difficulties associated with grammar, lack of motivation, lack of vocabulary.
Yes, as I mentioned before, that sometimes the writing skill, it's not well worked in the classroom. So ideally, teachers can give to this skill the proper time to work with their students. And as we mentioned too, to teach writing as a process, it's also very important.
It is important to view writing as a process in order to contribute to our students' knowledge. And of course, these problematics in our whole blog is constructed for you to improve your methodologies. And if you are a new teacher, you can learn new topics, you can learn new activities, and also here we have a wide range of activities for you to make, such as the discussion part. Then we have a summary for you to check that it has everything we have talked during the video. And
yes.
Also we have a quiz section, if you can show it, please.
Yes, I can explain. Well, we have a quiz section, and it's divided into 2 quizzes. The first quiz is going to tackle the first topics that we already discussed, that were processes involved and how to teach the skill, whereas the second quiz is going to tackle the rest of the items presented in the blog. Also, it's very important to mention that we have the references for you to dig into the books, for you to find more information about this important skill.
Yes, so thank you for watching, and I hope you have enjoyed this video and it was useful for you.
Yes, if you have any suggestion, leave it on the comment section below, and we are ready to show you the next video.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.